breaking news both on that volcano. New pictures coming in right now, and the severe storms moving through. Watches in 10 states as we come on the air. Blasting through New York City just a short time ago, day turning into night in the shadow of the Empire State Building. We all watched as the city suddenly turned dark, storm clouds moving in and quickly. Hail slamming down in Saugerties, New York, forcing cars to the side of the road just as many head home from work. Hundreds of flights canceled and delayed at this hour, thousands without power. ABC's Gio Benitez leading us off.
Tonight, powerful storms lashing the Northeast. On Interstate 87 in New York, torrential rain making it impossible to see. Tractor trailers smashing, workers racing to clear trees from the roadway. Hail, some of it tennis ball sized, destroying windshields.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, look at the whole truck.
Those storm clouds rolling into New York City.
This is a really dangerous situation as we go into the early evening hours.
Wind gusts downing trees and knocking out power for almost 500,000 customers across the region. Overnight, powerful straight-line winds pummeling the mid-Atlantic. Tornado warnings and wind gusts topping 60 miles an hour at Dulles Airport. Travelers there forced to hide underground. Lightning sparked this house fire. Our David Curley on the scene.
And you can see it struck this roof here in Tacoma Park. It caused quite a fire. 70 firefighters basically had to empty out that attic so that they could get this blaze out.
Further west, hail turned roads into rivers near Denver, and 4 tornadoes reported in Kansas.
Just extraordinary pictures coming in at this hour. We can see the commute home there behind you, Gio. He's live on New York's West Side Highway tonight. A rough ride for millions. And Gio, you're already seeing flights affected here in the Northeast.
That's right, David. Hundreds of flights have already been delayed or canceled here in the Northeast. That number's only growing, but I got to tell you, the wind here was so strong. Come over here just so you can see this. While we were standing here this afternoon, look at what the wind did to this massive light post here, David.
Now to all that rain and flooding that just won't let up this morning. Frederick, Maryland, one of the many spots on the East Coast underwater. ABC's David Curley is there with all the latest. Good morning, David.
Morning, Amy. More rain is coming. That is the bank of the river down there. We are actually up beyond that, and you can see the floodwaters streaming down this river. Already 9 to 10 inches here in Frederick. More's coming. Could be a foot of rain by the time this is over. The flood alert stands for another 24 hours. Firefighters been very busy. Nearly 500 calls, more than 100 of them rescues. A lot of folks stranded in their cars when they got caught in all this rain and water, and it is coming your way.
Conditions for hog farmers in America have been pretty tough. Now a new virus in pigs may also be a threat to humans. Researchers say it can easily make its way to cultured cells in the lab, raising fears of an outbreak. Natasha Sweets explains.
A recently discovered coronavirus reveals a possible cross-species transmission, and that means a sometimes fatal virus for pigs can be transmitted to humans. The porcine Delta coronavirus was first detected in 2012 with pigs in China. However, it wasn't associated with the disease. The virus was identified in the U.S. 2 years later in 2014. And this was during an outbreak of diarrhea in Ohio. It's been found in other countries. Pigs who are infected show signs of diarrhea, vomiting, but the virus can also be fatal. And now researchers are discovering this virus can now be transmitted to humans. While there are no cases of human infection, one of the study's authors says before pigs, this virus was traced to birds. And this, in fact, opened the door to researching how the transmission happens. Lead researcher Scott Kenny says it all depends on the virus's ability to bind to receptors on the cells of the animal or human.
Future research is actually going to take a look at human blood samples to see if they've been exposed to the virus. So what this disease, potentially what this disease could cause is diarrhea-like symptoms and maybe cold-like symptoms. And there are a lot of different viruses that cause these types of diseases, and doctors sometimes don't look at the causative factors in depth. They just treat the symptoms in their patients.
Now, this discovery is alarming to public health experts. They say this coronavirus is similar to other life-threatening viruses like SARS and MERS. Now, the virus was able to bind to the receptor cells in human as well as cats and chickens. So researchers say the next step is looking for antibodies in the blood, and that in turn would stand as evidence that the virus is infecting humans.
This is a civil defense message for Saturday, May 19th at 6 in the evening.
Hawaiian Volcano Observatory continues to monitor active flows which have joined together into one flow. The flow is currently in State Forest Reserve lands and heading in the general direction of Mackenzie State Park. No structures are threatened at this time. Residents should be aware that the lava flow is currently about half a mile from Highway 137 and, at the current rate, may cross the highway within the next 5 to 6 hours. Should the lava enter the ocean, be aware of the laze hazard and stay away from any ocean plume. Laze is formed when hot lava hits the ocean, sending hydrochloric acid and steam with fine glass particles into the air. Health hazards of laze include lung, eye, and skin irritation. Be aware that the laze plume travels with the wind and can change direction without warning. Due to the volcanic activity, the following are in effect. Residents between Kamaili and Pohuiki are advised to decide if they want to voluntarily leave the area at this time. For those who choose to voluntarily evacuate, the Pahoa Community Center, Keao Community Center, and Sure Foundation Church are open. The shelters are pet-friendly. All persons are asked to avoid the area. Stay alert to messages issued by your civil defense agency. County, state, and federal agencies will be monitoring the flows and eruptive activities throughout the night. On roads information, Highway 130 is open for residents only. Closure may occur at any time with no notice. Should the lava cross, Highway 137 will be closed to through traffic. Roadblocks will be established on both sides of the roadway should the flow cross the highway. Hawaiian Volcano Observatory continues to monitor active flows. Flow front 3 has split into 2 flows and both are entering the ocean. Hawaiian Volcano Observatory also reports that sulfur dioxide emissions have greatly increased. Due to hazardous conditions, the following roads are closed and all are asked to stay out of the area. Highway 137 is closed between Kamaili Road and Pohuiki Road. Kamaili Road is closed to all through traffic. Due to the lava entering the ocean off Highway 137 in the vicinity of Mackenzie Park, the following policies are in effect. Be aware of the laze hazard and stay away from any ocean plume. Laze is formed when hot lava hits the ocean, sending hydrochloric acid and steam with fine glass particles into the air. Health hazards of laze include lung damage and eye and skin irritation. Be aware that the laze plume travels with the wind and can change direction without warning.
And this is a Fox News alert on the emergency in Hawaii as people there brace for more explosive eruptions and fast-moving lava continuing to flow from the Kilauea volcano. One man was seriously injured after he was hit in the leg by lava spatter. Jeff Paul is live on the Big Island with the latest. Jeff?
Hey, Arthel, alarming new details here on the Big Island. We are learning about the first serious injury involving this volcano where a man was standing on his balcony and was hit in the leg with lava splatter. We're also hearing that the county has been forced to shut down one of the major highways in the area because lava is starting to cross over this lane. Now, the roadway, we were on it just yesterday. It's along the coast, and it's a main escape route out here for many residents. And the fear is that the lava flow could soon trap those residents. The National Guard has already had to airlift at least 4 people to safety, and there could be more close calls as lava continues to increase and move faster.
Hawaii County is doing everything they can to get last few holdouts in that particular area evacuated as quickly as possible because the situation could turn precarious really fast. I can't be any more frank. It's time to get out.
Now, the other concern is something called laze. Lava, as I mentioned before, is starting to cross over that coastal highway, and it's entering the ocean. And when that happens, it creates something called laze. It's a steam and a plume, and inside it, it is packed with little glass particles. So the county out here warning people, if you see that, stay away from that. And if you are in those areas impacted by where that lava is starting to flow faster, get out. Arthel?
I mean, I can't be more frank. It's time to get out. That's a very ominous warning that should be heeded.
We are at Santa Fe High School, about 30 miles southeast of Houston, the scene of the latest mass shooting in America. At least 10 people were killed, 9 students and 1 adult today. 10 others were hurt. We are just beginning to learn the identities of the dead, among them Ann Perkins, a substitute teacher, and Sabika Sheikh, an exchange student from Pakistan. Police say the gunman in custody tonight is a 17-year-old junior at the school. They say he was armed with his father's shotgun and a revolver. And police are searching the suspect's car and his parents' homes tonight.
They're having a shooting at the high school, have an officer down, shooter not in custody.
The chaos played out over police radio calls.
Shots fired. We have several shots fired, possibly 1 or 2 rooms in this area that we're at. School shooting, have an active shooter, several people down. He's actually shooting. He's in the art room. We got shots fired right now, guys.
Police say the shooter had a shotgun and a revolver and began shooting just as first period started. Sophomore Dakota Schrader was in the building.
As soon as the alarms went off, everybody just started running outside, and next thing you know, everybody looks, and you hear boom, 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 and I just ran as fast as I could to the nearest forest so I could hide, and I called my mom.
Paige Curry called her mother, too.
I told her, Mom, there are gunshots. I heard 4 shots, and it was it was real. It was real this time.
The 10 wounded were rushed to area hospitals, including John Barnes, a former 20-year Houston policeman who worked as a school resource officer. Fleeing students were huddled onto fields away from the school as parents raced to the scene looking for kids.
I told her to stay calm, to breathe, and just waiting and waiting and waiting, and finally they were leading her out of the school. Thank God she's okay.
30 minutes after the first call, the shooting was over, but the threat was not. School District Police Chief Walter Braun.
There have been explosive devices found in the high school and surrounding areas adjacent to the high school.
The devices included pressure cookers and pipe bombs. Police say the 17-year-old suspected gunman, Dimitrios Progorchis, was a student at Santa Fe High. Another student has been detained as a person of interest. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said the shooter wanted to commit suicide.
He gave himself up and admitted at the time that he didn't have the courage to commit the suicide, that he wanted to take his own life earlier.
It's been happening everywhere. I've always kind of felt like eventually it was going to happen here too. So, I don't know. I wasn't surprised, I was just scared.
Back in April, some Santa Fe students joined a nationwide school walkout to protest gun violence in the wake of the massacre at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High in Parkland, Florida. Today, Stoneman Douglas students tweeted their support for Santa Fe, one saying, "I should be celebrating my last day of high school, but instead my heart is broken to hear of the tragedy at Santa Fe."
Every one of Chile's 34 Roman Catholic bishops has offered to resign over a child sex abuse scandal and subsequent cover-up. The senior clerics made their offer in writing after a 3-day meeting at the Vatican, at which the Pope handed them a 10-page document accusing the Chilean hierarchy of negligence over child sex abuse. We're facing a very, very particular moment for the Universal Church, not only for Chile. I believe that it's not something normal to summon the entire Bishops' Conference here. Therefore, if I were you, I'd expect measures and conclusions that will be important. We're making history. It wasn't immediately clear if the Pope accepted the resignations. The bishops said they'd carry on with their pastoral work while he decides their fate.
Business Insider reports that astronomers claim to have found surprising evidence that a 9th planet, that isn't Pluto, may exist in our solar system. According to a new paper published this week, scientists claim to have identified a small rocky object located behind Neptune, whose movement patterns suggest could be orbiting a hidden planet with 10 times the mass of the Earth. Scientists have reportedly been searching for a Planet 9 or large planet farther from the Sun than Neptune since early 2016. David Gerds, an astronomer at the University of Michigan and a co-author on the paper, said, "It's not proof that Planet 9 exists, but I would say the presence of an object like this in our solar system bolsters the case for Planet 9.
The aircraft went down shortly after takeoff from Havana's Jose Marti International Airport. Over 100 passengers and crew were on board. The internal flight was headed east to the city of Holguín when it came down in an agricultural area.
This is catastrophic. This should have never happened. One never imagined something like this.
The Cuban president addressed the nation from near the crash site.
Everything here has been organized. The fire was extinguished, the remains are being identified, a commission has been organized by the Transportation Ministry to investigate it. And now, besides from giving our condolences over the loss of human life and giving all our solidarity to the families of victims, we will make the appropriate investigations, and as we gather information, we will give it to our people.
The plane was leased from a Mexican operator by the island's national airline, Cubana. It's been reported that Cubana has withdrawn many of its own planes from service in recent months due to a lack of parts that it blames on the US embargo. Reports say this was Cuba's third major air crash since 2010.